Leslie here with the little closet and my friend Zazoo Plazz. It was me, really, but this is her my animated version of myself, my alter ego. We'll talk you there. So anyway, how's everybody? I'm gonna try this week. Hopefully I don't run out of battery. I couldn't find a long enough cord. I've got cords all over the place. One of these days, I'm just going to record at my desk, I think. Once I get that whole area set up, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay, here we go. I made it. Sunday, 7:52 a.m., August 4th. I went on the website where I get my readings, my Bible readings, the Catholic website. And they had the dates off. They had the dates. For the Sunday, they had the 5th, which is actually tomorrow. But the 4th today, I guess there's a new moon in Leo, and Mercury's going retrograde. I think in Virgo into Leo, and some other stuff that's going on here. For Mercury retrograde for a lot of August. It's going to be retrograde. So I'm going to start off talking about that a little bit. There's already all the delays. They started last week. We were supposed to get new washers and dryers here at my place, the community washing machine. The old ones, they really need to go. And they're like, they're supposed to come on the 7th. So I made plans. I'm not going to do wash that day. I'm going to this and that. And they're like, oh, well, they're not coming on the 7th. We don't know when they're coming. And all these appointments I had scheduled months ahead. They're like, oh, we have to cancel. And then they're like, oh, then you have to go and hunt somebody down and try to figure out how. And you're like, what? It's buried. They leave voicemails. And you're like, oh, okay. I guess I have to take care of that. So, so that's my little beef for the week. Just my beef of the week. I always see sometimes these Zazoo reports, they turn into mini rants, Zazoo rants. And then I get over it and then I get on with it. So that was my little rant for the week. My pre-Mercury retrograde rant. Just dumb. And we're in Leo season, which is fixed fire, which is I don't want to change. I had those damn appointments. I don't want to change them. So anyway, okay, get on with it. We get it. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so delays. I hope my kid's coming home from firefighting in Oregon this week. So I hope that the planes are running on time and everything goes smoothly. I mean, after all that, he's fighting fires, 100-degree temperature, and and then he has to take a plane home, and that's the thing that he likes the least is when he has to deal with schedules and flights and technology. He's like, Mom, if I could just like teleport out there, put out the fires and teleport back home. Zazoo does that. She's got her apron. See? In case things get messy, she's got her apron in the front, and then she's got her cape in the back. So she's got her rocket booster, her jetpack on the back. See there? So she can fly. She doesn't even need a jetpack. She can just fly. She's special. She's got skills. So anyway, So, all these months I've been in my new place, and I just haven't found the right towels. Now, how many women out there can relate to this? I just, Like I go in the store, even the fancy, well, the department store, the only one that's left down the street, starts with a K. Anyway, or I'll go online and I'll look and I'm like, yeah, I've got this nice shower curtain. It has all these different color leaves on it. It's like a tree, and it's got like leaves of every color. It's beautiful, but I couldn't decide which color I wanted to match up, and get a, bath rug and towels. And then finally, sometimes I'll just, you know, kind of, if I'm not into it, I just won't buy them. So I've been using the same towel, which I've been washing every week or every other week when I use the dryer. It's a whole plan. See, when I throw the sheets in, I throw the one towel. So it's just me, so it really doesn't get, and I'm clean when I use it, so it doesn't really get that bad. But like when I clean the towels on the off week, I don't use the dryer, so I dry them. They get like stiff the board. It's like it's like drying yourself with a Triscuit. Anyway, loofah. It doubles as a loofah. Anyway, some people think I'm a loofah, but I'm just reserved until I get to know people, and I can be very friendly. Um, the puns are out of control lately, people. Like a whole new sense of humor has opened up in my little reels that I've been doing. Uh, so I've been amusing myself in addition to watching the Olympics. Wow, I really love watching like the bike races and the running because those were my sports, running and biking. But I mean, all of them, they're amazing. The rowing, oh my gosh, watching the rowing is exciting. It was like the U.S. and New Zealand were like the men's teams were neck and neck, and they were just an inch ahead, back. And that comes in later. Rowing, yeah, because in the readings today, so it's the 18th Sunday, I think. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna skip around to this because it's relevant. Imagine that I'm doing something relevant. Okay, it says in John, the 6th chapter of John, that Jesus was out. The crowd was like looking, people were looking for Jesus. And they got him, they're like, oh, when did you get here? They find him, out in the ocean, where he's hiding there. They rendezvous, they find him. And he's like, well, you were only looking for me because you were filled by this, the bread. Like, when they had the bread and the fish and stuff, they were, but it wasn't the bread that filled them. It was the faith that there would be enough. So their belief, they saw Jesus, handing out the food, and that's when the miracle happened. Is when they believed that there would be enough. So that's a good thing to be talking about on a new moon. Is that there is enough. There's plenty for everybody, right? So, but you go back to the Old Testament, and I mean, this does this ring a bell? People were saying, all the Israelites in the desert in Exodus, they were complaining, well, we're hungry. We should have stayed back in Egypt. At least we had food. When they were, you know, enslaved. How many times, you know, do we stay in a comfortable comfort zone that is not good for us? We get stuck. But we say, out of fear for having lack of abundance, we don't make a move. We don't take a risk that could be very good for our soul, right? We stay stuck with the same people and the same routines and the same bad fast food or the same, bad habits or the same watching the same shows, reading the same books, not learning anything new. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I get bored sometimes. I have to force myself, to constantly be striving for improvement, for learning, for growing, listening to different music, right? I mean, doing a different exercise routine to kind of shake my muscles up a little, surprise the body, right? You keep doing the same thing, you're not going to change. And, the body knows this. If you keep doing the same workouts and you never, try to lift more, try to run farther or faster, right? You're not going to see progress because you'll plateau. Goes for anything, you can, something that's harmful for you. Um, at a certain point, it just doesn't give you that buzz anymore. You've got to step it up, right? Well, it's the same thing with, Jesus was saying it's the same thing with God, the universe, right? You, we all hit spiritual plateaus, right? Where there's nowhere to go. You've got to go up, right? And God's saying, well, I'll meet you up there. Don't worry, there will be people there. There's going to be stuff going on. You won't be bored, but you got to leave where you are. Get in the damn boat and get and row out. It's like that tarot card, where the lady's like in the boat with all the swords and the guy is like rowing her and she's, kind of hunched over. She's, you know, you could tell the waters have been turbulent where she was, right? But there's a little boy next to her who's hopeful that things will be better, and there's a distant shore where they're going. Well, that's kind of the feel I was getting this week. Um, so back to Exodus, God's like, well, uh, they're out with Moses. God says, okay, well, he says, okay, tonight you're going to eat meat, and in the morning you'll have bread. So at nighttime there was quail, not Dan, the birds. He sent a bunch of quail so they could eat that. In the morning, said they could have the manna from heaven. Well, it turns out manna is the sap of an ash tree. It's like a sweet, it's a sweet substance that comes from plants. So it's like a sap, and it's like eating wafers and honey. It's very sweet. So, so that's what they were talking about. That they ate it off the ground. It was like syrup off the tree. Um, so that's kind of important. Then we have Ephesians. St. Paul is talking about to put away your old self. He says, put away your old self. This is all very relevant. And now you're saying, Zazoo, why are you talking about this Old Testament stuff, this Bible stuff? Because I'm interested in it. I'm interested to relate it to present day, to the way the things I'm going through, and a lot of people I think are going through. I'm just generalizing here. But, I'm picking it apart because I was raised Catholic. And I always like to weave things together, like, not religion, but words of wisdom, right? And for me, I find a lot of that in the weekly readings. I really only read them on Sunday. And the other days I read other things like Khalil Gibran, I never know how to say his name. I read a lot of different, things. I read astrology books, and I read all different texts. But on Sundays, I like to turn back to where I started, which was as a little kid reading my children's Bible. You know, I was into very advanced things at a young age. I was very curious, and then we go to church, and I was very unsatisfied, even as an adult, with how they would interpret it, because I had my own ideas. So I said, you know what, he could bring in some, something fun, like some pop culture. So that's what I do. This kind of melded in, with my family stories, nature, just funky things I wonder about. I throw them in here. It's like a big stew, Zazoo Report, right? So Yeah. So put away your old self, put on your new self. Okay, so when you get to like a new level of truth, right? You of the way you see the world, right? That he talks about don't live in the futility of your mind. In other words, the mind will just take you so far, right? It's like you keep whacking it against something. Stuart Wilde was one of the authors I read. He said that, solving problems. You can whack your head against something till, your skull breaks and whatever's left, you can whack it on something else. That's not it. You know, Paul is saying, put on a new self with righteousness and truth, right? So it's almost like, um, I was just getting this image, put on your new self. Reminds me of Buffalo Bill, the guy from Silence of the Lambs who makes himself a skin suit. Never mind. I don't think that's what St. Paul meant by that, but anyway. Um, yeah, creepy. Get out. Psst, psst. There's certain images this week I just can't seem to get out of my mind. You know how you see something and you just wish you hadn't. Um, yeah, because this coming week I've got my aunt's funeral. I think last week I talked about my aunt Olivia and Vivian who passed at 88 this week. But since then her obituaries come out. And there's a bunch of pictures that the family has added, to the website, to the funeral website, and they're nice, but most of them, one of them was when she was younger, where she's standing at a grill and she's barbecuing something. And then most of them are of like the last year of her life. And my cousin's daughters who were, early 30s now. Let's see, yeah, they're both early 30s, millennials. They posted some. And they're like, they said, well, Grandma didn't want us to post these because she was she thought that people would, you know, talk about her, about how she looked or something. And what her oldest daughter said, but we wanted we did it anyway because we think people will be saying lovely things about our grandma. And I thought that was that hits the heart right there. That's that's what I mean. That's what Jesus, St. Paul meant by putting on your new self in truth. Okay. So the old way was, my aunt was very regal. She had a very regal. She's very very attractive, very nice looking, always impeccably dressed, and that's the French, okay? I come from French Canadian, very proud, very, um, she would always put herself together, it was important. And I think, that kind of carried over into her, last days where she's not of the generation where we, like my cousins got, well, they're not on too much. The older one kind of is because she's in theater and she's really good, and she's a singer. She and her husband are singers, musicians. The younger one's not. She's not. Maybe Instagram, but they didn't. She didn't do Facebook, and my cousin doesn't do Facebook, so I can say things. I definitely do Facebook and social media. It's always been my thing. But she's not like that. They're more private, which is fine. Yeah, but my aunt was not of that mindset, where she did care what other people, you know, had to say about her. She did care. She was a Libra, right? Libras, they're very much about the other, right? The scales, one side and the other, and things being equal. So she didn't want to not be here. People talking about her. See, me, I'm Gen X. I don't care. I don't care. My cousin is Gen X too, but she's early. Like she's early 60s. I'm real Gen X. I really don't care. Obviously, I'm doing these videos. I don't care. I do care. I do care that people see these, but I have my instructions not to market myself too much. So if you're seeing this, there's a really good reason why. I have a message for you. Pass it on if you think. Anyway, so okay, so there are people going out seeing Jesus. Okay, towels. Oh, so Jesus told them, "Don't work for food. Don't work for." Oh, that's last week. That's Weird Al. Um, don't work for food. No, that was the. Wait, where the heck is my going the wrong way? Don't work for food that perishes, but for food that endures for eternal life. Which comes from Jesus, comes from God, right? Comes from universe. It's on Him. What He was saying, Jesus was saying, Christ, right? That's where the Father has set His seal. So, in other words, that's the it's like the Food and Drug Administration. They put their seal on it, so you can trust, right? You can trust it. So that's interesting. It's like the food, um, yeah, the food that endures for eternal life, and He set His seal on it. Instead of working for the food that's the Food and Drug Administration is sealed, work for the food that God put His source, create, spirit, put its stamp on, right? And that's the stuff that's the good stuff that you know you have that you won't be hungry again. In other words, you know, you're sometimes you can if you eat a meal, but you don't have any company, you don't have any entertainment, that sometimes I feel like that nourishes me as much or more, right, than the meal itself, right? That's just food. You're hungry again. But if I'm doing this, I forget about eating sometimes. It sustains me in a very positive way, spiritually, right? So, okay, get to the song, Zazoo. Okay, you're yapping too much this week. All right. So I said, okay, I'm thinking, okay, the cooking, all of a sudden, this, and I'm looking for, I said, oh, I got to do songs about bread. And I did a reel about bread and bakeries and stuff earlier today, before I even did any of this. So I said, well, I did the bread. And I'm thinking, Club at the End of the Street by Elton John just popped into my head randomly this morning, just randomly. And then, I went to the song and there was some other guy on there who said that it popped into his head early this morning. Now, what are the chances? And this guy is like a musician, I guess, New York High, if you're watching. Um, and I thought, wow, isn't that something? I'm connected somehow to this center galactic, jukebox. So anyway, Elton John he composed the song. Bernie Taupin did the lyrics. It was on the Sleeping with the Past album, 1989, released as a single, his third single from the album in April of 1990. I was 24. That was my first semester in grad school in the MBA program. And it's funny, the words in that song were, I, I said, oh, that's perfect. At first I thought, well, what does this have to do with eating bread from heaven? But in Exodus they say, in the evening twilight you shall eat flesh, right? So you may know I am the Lord. Um, and then the morning bread, so flesh. And then in the song, okay, so they're obviously they're eating these birds. They probably have to cook them. It's like there's a downtown smell of cooking on the flame of an open grill. And the flames, Leo, sun is now in Leo, the new moon's in Leo, and it's fixed fire, flames, grills, right? Grilling out, that's fixed fire. So, okay, and then, all right, Leo is about performing, right? So the song is about, two lovers, I guess. They go and they meet. They rendezvous. I used to think it said, you, me, and you rendezvous. I used to think it said, Sunday fools. Me and you, Sunday fools. I'm a Sunday fool. Yeah, anyway, rendezvous is a French word. French bakeries, boulangeries. My mother's maiden name was Bellinger, which is derived from boulangerie, which means baker. So she was French and a baker, right? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And the Olympics are going on in Paris, France. Okay, Snoop Dogg is having, like, croissant and Martha Stewart stuff today. Croissant. My cousin up in Maine, she's got a bakery in Portland. She and her husband run a bakery. So there's that. But okay, so there's a sax and big bass. Can't sit still. Lord have mercy. You can't sit still. That's fire, right? What you want to dance, Leo. Leo is about romance, about not romance, more of a, that creative, lovers and affairs and uh, shining brightly, neon lights, being on the stage. That's Leo. You can't make this stuff up. But you can't sit still, right? You got fire under you. You can't sit still. The Olympics are going on. You can't sit. You gotta move, right? So this is an awesome song. It's got a sax solo that is just awesome. And they're rowing. They're rowing up to meet Jesus, right? And they're rowing in the Olympics, right? Rowan Atkins. Um, the shades are drawn and the light of the moon is banned in the song, right? There's a new moon. The light of the moon is banned. There's no light because it's a new moon. I mean, there's a hot little tree. So that's got to mean something. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Three is an important number. Three. I'll think about it. Elton John said in 2013 that this was one of his favorite songs of all time. And okay, so the other thing he said, Otis. He mentions Otis and Marvin Gaye, Otis Redding in the song. And that summer of 1990, I was 24, the same age my son is going to be this year. And I was working for a company named Otis Elevator in 1990, that summer. You can't make this. I mean, okay. So, all right, very peppy song, right? And yeah, so he said it was one of his favorites. It got to number 28 on the Billboard Hot 100, the pop charts, and number 2 in the adult contemporary, which is interesting because it is more of a soft rock kind of song. But the video is all animated. It's and he said at the time he was drawing, and very involved with the family of this Ryan White, this AIDS victim, and back in the late 80s, that time, late 80s, early 90s, was a hot topic, for anybody who was, we were Gen X, the oldest of us who were in our 20s, right, during the AIDS epidemic. And there were movies, there was that Tom Hanks movie, it was, it was forefront of the mind, everywhere it was all, all in the media, everywhere. You're a young adult, and it's kind of like what happened with the pandemic, right? You reach this point in your life where you've got to be out there and doing all the stuff, and they're like, no, no. So I draw parallels between Gen X and Gen Z. Some of the things that have gone on, shifts in societies that I think had started. Oh, it's going to shut me off. Anyway, so that's my report for the week. I gotta say goodbye. Yeah, have a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye bye.